Yay, you found the Doug TenNapel channel. Many of you have been watching for a long time. I don't thank you guys enough. Of course, you give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, tell us what you think. That really helps push this video out a little farther. This is about the Republican strategy, the winning strategy going forward versus the Democrat strategy, which is the losing strategy going forward. There are some basics that we need to do. Pam Bondi here talks about just going back to basic crime. So this isn't that fancy, guys. This is about just prosecute crime. What do you guys think of this brand for the future?
President Trump's mission was very clear. His directive was make America safe again. That's what we're going to do. No more weaponization. We're going to go back to fighting basic crime, getting these cartels out of our country by securing our borders, prosecuting the worst of the worst, seizing the drugs, which is what President Trump has directed us to do since the second he's been in office. And
hold on, I want to go into this for just a second because this is, to me, really important. And this is really important for my audience too. You know, it's a look over here, shiny object. Look over here, look over here. The Epstein files. Okay. It affects almost no one. I get it that there's all kinds of corruption there to flush out, but you know what hits bread and butter? Everyday Americans that is not a distraction? Crime. Massive uptick in crime. In American borders, our people are being murdered. There's a giant illegal underground crime syndicate all over America. It has nothing to do with some tabloid plain itinerary that we keep trying to get them to release, and it doesn't get released. Okay, so it's a distraction. I think it's a psyop. I think if they can get everyone focused on these lunatic conspiracies, you know, it doesn't matter who shot JFK 40 years ago. Does not matter. You know who also died on the same day JFK got shot? C.S. Lewis and Huxley, the author. Great, great minds. No one cares about them. This is all about just chasing black helicopters and the UFO project. Release the UFOs. I'm fascinated by UFOs. It's like a lifelong hobby of mine. But you know what? It does not affect day-to-day Americans. What ships crashed, if we have an alien, if it's, you know, drones being sent around the world and stuff like that. Crime. I like this bread and butter issue. It's not sexy. It's not spacey and weird with people pulling the invisible strings. This is basic, straightforward stuff our government should be doing. So hats off to Bondi here.
Lock up the violent criminals as long as we can behind bars, or seek the death penalty. And that's what we've been doing. You know, we've signed death warrants. We've to seek the death penalty since he's been in office. It's not business as usual. We are going back to the basics, fighting violent crime, and taking these drugs off the street is the main component of keeping our kids safe.
Yeah, we're getting, you know how the drugs work. It's fentanyl, a poison, but a bodily poison that kills people, is so cheap to make that they'll make little drugs for the youth to use, like ecstasy or whatever else they're taking at the latest dance or whatever. And it's so expensive to make ecstasy that they make it out of fentanyl instead because it's cheap. And then they make it look like an ecstasy tab so that they're charging top price for the illegal drug, but delivering poison. And it's killing 100,000 Americans a year. That is important to stay focused on. Epstein Island is not killing 100 people a year. So we're going there. Now on messaging, this is Scott Bessent. I got this great quote from him. This is Scott Bessent on fake news. And this goes into the messaging of who's going to do what messaging with their campaign.
I was on the other side of the wall. I never really liked the term fake news. Now that I am on the inside and I can see what they're reporting, I think the term fake news probably isn't strong enough.
So now that he's on the inside, he just got red-pilled, black-pilled. Scott Bessent, when he was on the outside, he didn't like the term fake news. That's too derogatory, Trump. You're using coarse language. Now he's on the inside and part of the Trump administration. He goes, fake news does not go far enough. Trump was being tactful. He was being subtle compared to what news actually does. Now that Scott Bessent sees the truth.
It's really not. That they start with an a priori, they've written the story, and then they just going to shape shift facts to back into it, because many of the stories that I've been involved with are just so far off, so far off. There was a story in the New York Times the other day that talked about 50% headcount decreases at the IRS. Nobody's talking about that. These were on background, these were not named sources, and they're just trying to stir tumult during taxpayer filing season. I mean,
so this is a major newspaper publication, the Times. These are our big ones. He flat out said that they lied. It was unsourced. It was made up. That's getting back to basics, I would say. Here's Stephen A. Smith on the Democrats blowing it so bad. He's my favorite because, he's a Democrat, therefore he's a loser. But also, he acts like he can't believe how corrupt the Democrat Party is. Sir, you are naive. Open your eyeballs up in your skull and look around. Look at the room. I can't believe my party is for violence. My party lie. Yeah. Yes, Stephen, wake up. He's taking his baby steps.
Here's the problem. One of the many problems with the Democratic Party, outside of not being known as the party that caters to the working class, outside of being known as the party that leans so far left, you made Trump seem normal. Outside of all of those things, here's the ultimate crime that's going.
That's Sean Hannity when he says they make Trump look good, and Sean Hannity goes, "Oh, good grief." Like, get over yourself, Stephen. This guy, you went to college too. Why do you talk like a black preacher? You're an educated man. You don't gotta talk like this all the time. You're not, I guess. Can I have a witness?
Going on. They're literally sitting up on Capitol Hill. Not all, but most of them. They're the party. They're literally sitting up on Capitol Hill acting like their only job is to be in opposite of Donald Trump in every way, shape, form, and fashion.
He's shocked that the Democrat Party thinks their only job is to oppose Trump. Dude, where have you been for 10 years? Trump came on the scene in 2016, 2015. That's all the Democrats have done and been anti-Trump. He's like, I can't believe my party. They think all their only existence is to oppose Trump. Yeah. And you're still voting for him.
That's not going to get them the midterms. That's not going to help them regain the White House. It's fool's gold. And somebody needs to tell them. I'm trying to tell them. I don't think I'm alone. But when the conservatives like yourself and various others are uttering this stuff, it pains me to say, you're right. And they better do something about it, because in the end, and Lord help them if the tariff situation works in Trump's favor, they're really not going to have a leg to stand on then. Lord help them if that happens.
Sean Hannity loves this. You're right. I saw a Cenk Uygur quote saying the same thing. He's like, the Republicans, he hates to say it, but we're right and the Democrats are wrong. Here's Scott Jennings on the tariffs, how Trump's going to double down on tariffs. Another common sense good thing to do because it's helping our economy.
Corrections are not unusual. I mean, during the bull market from 2009 to 2020, I think we even had 5 corrections during that period. We tend to have them every couple of years. It's not unusual. They tend to be cyclical. There are other signs, I think, in the economy that are helping real people. Wholesale inflation is down. Consumer inflation is down. Gas prices are decreasing. Mortgage rates coming down. Egg prices are $4.89 today. They were $6.55 on January 21st. We've seen manufacturing jobs in the last jobs report go up. Private investment announcements are going up. And a whole bunch of nutty climate regulations have been eviscerated by this administration. So the stock market is one measurement. It's not unusual for corrections to occur, but there's a whole bunch of green shoots that I think we could look to and say, maybe there's some optimism to be had. He is articulating some parts of the strategy, and it all revolves around more manufacturing in the United States. He believes strongly in the tariffs as a stimulant to American manufacturing. By the way, he is building ships. I heard you mention that. They've got a shipbuilding strategy too. But they strongly believe that they're going to encourage people to bring back investment. And they've had a number of huge investment announcements of manufacturing in a number of different sectors. That's their view. Now, does it all happen overnight? No. And I don't think anyone should be hysterical over the stock market on one day or 6 weeks. Corrections occur, and then the markets, move around. But this idea of trying to stimulate more manufacturing in the United States, that's the plan.
I'm all for that.
And he thinks it will work.
And it will work. That's going to be tough, by the way. To bring manufacturing back is insane. Trump is insane, but it's the right answer. insane is now the right answer. You know how so just so you know what we're competing with, all right? Manufacturing right now is in China. China is slave wages. They have slaves that work in their factories. They're not free. Their price is so low, maybe $1 a day for an employee, maybe even if it's $5 a day. So they can manufacture cheap products. I didn't have the Jasmine Crockett video to show, but she goes, you want someone else to pick your fruit. How many of you, Jasmine Crockett, Democrat, really got it right? She goes, how many of you want your kids to go into manufacturing? How many of you want your kids to work on an assembly line? How many of you want your kids to pick fruit? How many of you want your kids to clean people's houses? How many of you want your kids to work in roofing? Now, many of my people that are blue collar working class, we all know my dad swung a hammer. I picked fruit growing up. Okay. It is a normal job. It just doesn't pay today because all that competition, you're trying to compete with an illegal underground market. So a whole chunk of your economy is a lie. You're not paying what you should for plastic goods that are manufactured in China. That means toys, appliances, action figures, anything being made in China. You're not paying the right price for it because you're paying them. You're going like, we don't believe in slavery here. We freed our slaves. Okay. And China goes, oh, we have slaves over here. And then we go, okay, we'll pay for your cheap product and fill up Hobby Lobby, Walmart, Costco. That's what's happening. Widespread. You go in and disrupt that market with tariffs and you start punishing other countries, saying, Mexico, you're a slave state. China, you're a slave state. We're raising tariffs on you until you straighten things out because we're not going to compete with an illegal market. And then we start cleaning up our own illegals in the country. And you start kicking out illegals that are picking fruit for cheap, getting paid under the table. And you start paying them a normal wage, a normal American, a normal wage to do manufacturing, picking peaches, construction work. It's going to drive the cost through the roof, but it's going to be an honest cost. Agreed? So I'm just saying that's what Scott Jennings is talking about is, hey, you're going to go the market is going to be disrupted. Our entire market is going to be disrupted if it's ever made honest. And we got a long way to go. You got a lot of disruption left. When you pay $7 for a price of egg or avocados or for construction, and you're paying what it actually costs to put someone up on your roof, your kids will want a job in roofing. They go, hey, I get paid 70 grand a year to go pick peaches. It's a good job. I work on an assembly line, putting together tennis shoes in America. I make 70 grand a year and I'm a high school dropout. It's a good job, but it's not there now because we're competing with illegal slavery. You guys see how big the problem is? You go in and disrupt that and you turn our economy into a truth-telling, actual market that's not competing with slave labor in India, China, all these other countries. It's going to be disruptive. That's all Scott Jennings is saying. And that's what's coming to our market. Now, on the future of Democrat branding, here's Sean Hannity with Charlie Cook on his interview when Charlie Kirk went on, had Gavin Newsom. He was on Gavin Newsom's podcast.
He does not listen ever. Maybe is this the tipping point for him? Did you get the feeling he really wants to change?
I don't know. I think he wants to be president, Sean, more than anything else on the planet. I think you can agree he has more political ambition than almost anybody in the Democrat Party. And I think he understands that the entire country is moving center right and is accelerating at a rapid pace. In fact, we are course correcting after 4 failed years under Joe Biden and all of the woke stuff and the anti-common sense movement. Gavin Newsom had me on his podcast, and I was shocked all of a sudden where he decided to diverge away from the orthodox opinion in the Democrat Party, which is as simple as saying that it's not fair that a biological man can compete in female sports.
Okay, so that's why I'm putting this clip on our show. This is about the Democrat strategy going forward. If Gavin Newsom represents that Democrat strategy of coming off their old loser, he called it an orthodoxy, Democrat orthodoxy, is that men have to be able to compete in women's sports, biological men. And if Gavin Newsom abandoned that orthodoxy, that religious cult-like thinking, he's willing to do what it takes to win. He might be the only Democrat willing to do that and say, Men shouldn't compete in women's sports. We should close up the border. We should not be involved in foreign wars. Will the Democrat Party come around to that, Brendan? Now, Gavin Newsom, we know, is a reptile and a liar. He doesn't mean any of it, but maybe he will adjust any of his beliefs if it means he gets to win the presidency. And that represents the future of the Democrat Party. I can cut this show off there because I've made my point. I'm watching the Democrats to see what they're willing to change. And by the way, they're fighting Doge, fighting Trump and Doge proves they're not willing to change, but that's the old Democrat Party that's still going to lose. They're very unpopular. They're trying to hold on to this old message that is not a winner. Will they change or will they continue to lose? Because I want them to continue to lose because they're satanic Marxists, that we want that way of thinking to be dead and gone forever. I'm Doug. This is the Doug TenNapel channel, and I'm glad that you're here. I want to earn your view with every show, so thank you.